Welcome, fellow Kiss fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan. My name is Rick. Tonight's episode is a semi-rehash of a previous video I did. I did a video on the Marvel comic Super Special #1. That video was corrupt and has been removed, and I thought about recording that video, but then I thought, why not add a little more flair to the episode itself? And on my Instagram page, I have been doing a new project called It's All For You Demon, Then and Today. And it is really just me looking at an item from the band and discussing how I felt about that said item when I was a teenager, diving into Kiss, and how I see it now. Because perceptions can change, and you can hate something when you're younger and grow to love it now, or you can love something when you're younger and grow to dislike it now. So I thought I would do that today with the 1970s comics of Kiss. Now, when I first dove into Kiss, this magazine was my Bible. There was no internet. All I had to learn about the band was this magazine and my friend Dan's brain of rock and roll and Kiss knowledge. I had this CD, this magazine, this cassette tape, and the burning desire to learn all I could about Kiss and travel down the road of Kiss collecting. And it was this very page of the magazine that really drew me in. And there you see those two comic books. When I was 14, obtaining those meant everything to me. Now fast forward a few years and these rock and roll comics began coming out. And these were huge when I was in high school. They were so much fun to collect, and they really made headline news with their very first issue of Guns N' Roses. It was an unauthorized biography. Guns N' Roses threatened a lawsuit, and the printings were pulled off the shelf, making issue #1 very highly collectible. Dan and I had the collecting bug, so we scoured every comic book shop in our hometown trying to find the Guns N' Roses issue. Never found it, but one day, glory. I was standing at the wall looking at an Avengers comic, and Danny asked the man behind the desk, "Hey, do you have that Guns N' Roses issue?" And he said, I can remember this to this day, "No, but I got this." Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And speaking from a then and today standpoint, I still get just as giddy looking at this issue as I did the first time I ever looked at it. I love how the pages of this comic feel. They have that newspaper, newsprint feel versus a comic book. And the colors just pop from this comic book, and they have a wonderful feel. There's like a crispness to this comic book when you turn the pages. It smells delicious. It smells like the inside of a record album. If you are anything like me and you love nostalgia, you love that musty smell, and this comic still has that smell. I still love this thing as much as I did when I was a kid. This comic book rules. Boom. And last but not least about this comic book, one of the great stories of this comic book is that it is printed in real Kiss blood. Or is it? And one of the things I love about being a Kiss fan and daydreaming about the band is not really the band itself. It is being a fly on the wall and seeing the inner workings of the machine of Kiss. I would love to see behind the scenes the nuts and bolts that went into the marketing, went into the business decisions regarding the band. And one of those decisions to put the human blood of the band into the red ink of that comic book, that is a brilliant marketing idea. That is a gimmick and a half. But if rumors be true, none of the blood went into that comic book because Arcada Graphics had another issue they had to get out first. And it was this, the Sports Illustrated June 6th, 1977 issue with Big Bird on the cover that got the blood from Kiss. How fun is that? How fun is that to imagine that there was a giant goof up and all of the blood from Kiss went into this issue of Sports Illustrated? That is so much fun to think about. This kind of stuff is the stuff that makes being a Kiss fan fun to me. I love this stuff. This is what I live for. Silly things like this. Pure fun. Next up, the second issue of the Marvel Kiss comic books from the 70s. I was a comic book reading teenager. I could hang with stories, Avengers, X-Men, Spider-Man, etc. I remember this story really finding it hard to keep my attention, even though it was Kiss. And I still feel that way today. And even the issue itself, although I do really love the cover, I love Ace dangling off the enemy's hand. This does not have the same feel as the first comic. Great art, but the pages are a little more glossy. As a whole, the comic just feels completely different. Kind of feels rushed. And I don't know if that was a fact, but this comic just feels really put together fast. Like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't like the story, but it just seems to go in all different directions. This whole book just feels really, really rushed. I do love this panel of Ace, and I've always thought that that panel, even with the word really, would make an incredible shirt. And lastly, on the fun meter, how fun is the back ad? Imagine being a kid, picking up this issue, and being like, oh yeah, the solo albums. And I do remember as a teen discussing with Dan quite a bit why there were only 2 comics of Kiss in the 70s when their huge popularity pretty much went for 2 more years. 79, big in America. 1980, big in Australia. Why not push out 2 more issues? And to that point, enter Dazzler. Dazzler originated as a Casablanca idea. Dazzler was going to be a music comic crossover. How cool would it have been if Dazzler would have hooked up with a Dynasty era Kiss? Last Stand in Disco Land? Indeed. Another fun thing to think about. And all of Dan and my questions regarding the remaining Marvel comics from the 70s with Kiss were answered when we got the hard rock comic, Kiss Prehistory, Issue 3. And here is said panel, Kiss, at the Marvel building, discussing plans for the next comic. And the Marvel people want Kiss to sign a contract because Marvel needs to own the copyright of anyone in their issues. Of course, we know Kiss copyrighted their makeup, their personas, very wisely, and there were no Marvel issues after the second issue. If you ever do want to pick up a great read, I highly recommend these prehistories. There are 3 issues. There were supposed to be more, but there was a disagreement between Hard Rock and Kiss. However, these issues are amazing. If you get them, don't be like me in 1993 and do not color in the band members with colored pencil. Leave the art black and white. Don't ruin your comic by coloring it. It's all for you, Demon. Then and today, I regret doing that. And while we are on the comic tit, there is a delicious magazine called Back Issue, number 101. That is the Rock and Roll Comics issue, and it goes into great detail about the comic that would have came out after the second issue. It was going to be drawn by none other than comic legend Neil Adams, and it was going to be Kiss in their Dynasty costumes, and they were going to be fighting this evil wizard who had like this pinball, probably based off the success of the 1978 Bally machine. But man, can you imagine how fun this comic would have been? Well, there you have it, my fellow Kiss fans. I needed to redo my video talking about my love of the rumored story of the blood and the Kiss comic going into the Big Bird Sports Illustrated from 1977. So I thought, what better way than to add a little more fun and discuss all of the comics of Kiss and the 1970s. Thank you for hanging with me. Take care. Be safe. Never stop having fun. Never stop digging the rumored stories. And I talk to you soon. I don't even like sports.